Alrighty, so it's a little late for some of you guys. For me, it's 7:14 on the West Coast. So, as always, I just decided I wanted to come on and talk about some things. That's what we're going to be talking about today is the dimensional shift that has arrived. It is here this year. Watch what happens this year. I don't even know. I can't even make predictions. We're going into a completely new direction. We have shifted, and I believe that the solstice of 2017 was the shifting point. When we made that shift, the door closed on the previous, whatever you want to call it, the Piscean age, if you want to look at it in terms of that. We have moved into something new. So what is going to be very important now going forward, when you want to change, when you want to manifest things in your life, you are going to be better served if you are able, instead of trying to make decisions or New Year's resolutions, making dimensional shifts. And I use the word decision. And I use that in a very specific way. So I may call it a shamanic decision. But what it really is it's a shamanic technique for making a dimensional shift, shifting into a new timeline. And as we are in this new phase that the door closed when we went through the solstice this year. When we made this shift now, this is going to be the way to most effectively go forward in life, make decisions in life, and change things in your life. And understand that whatever it is that you've created in your life, whatever external scenarios that you have, positive or negative, are a result of continuous micro shifts that you make. Whenever you have a feeling, whenever you, for lack of a better word, indulge in any kind of mindset or attitude, whether that's positive or negative, you're continuously making micro shifts. And then the energy builds up until you explode into a new state of being. And that new state of being could be positive or negative. I should say challenging or pleasant. And we don't realize it because we think it's happening to us. We think that life happens to us. This is why I'm constantly coming down on the whole idea of the victim mentality. This is why I'm constantly coming against conspiracy theories of all kinds. Because conspiracy theory is just a fancy way of calling it a victim mentality. And again, let me ask you a basic question, especially if you're new to my channel. What universe would you like to live in? Would you like to live in the universe where beings, people, organizations, governments have the ability to make your life difficult or challenging? If you are one of those people that believes that there are interdimensional beings, that there are archons, that there are reptilians, that there are the elites, the Illuminati, if you are somebody that believes in these entities or organizations, and if you believe that they have the power to affect your life, do you want to change that? That's my question for you. What kind of universe do you want to live in? Do you want to live in that universe where you are subject to being controlled, manipulated, deceived, affected? You have to fight against them. And if you're lucky, you'll wake up and learn the truth behind all of the conspiracies? Or do you want to live in a universe where you dictate what happens in your reality? I wish I could give to you the feeling that I'm having right now, the experience that I'm having right now, this very second. I wish I could just hand it to you, but I can't, because I choose to live in the latter universe. I choose to live in the universe where I control what happens, where I control isn't the right word, where I decide how my life is going to be. Now, be very clear about this. I am human, just as human as you are. So that's the good news. The ideal state of the human being is to be this divine being that can shift dimensions. This is the ideal state of the human being. And so, sorry, I'm just checking to see who's online here. I'm going to check that in a second. So that is your divine state. But having said that, let me be clear. I'm still human. And so when I shift and I make these dimensional shifts, I feel it. And there are parts of me that resist. And that will come out in multiple ways. I might have emotional reactions to it. I might have psychological reactions, or I have physical reactions. I am going through a major shift. I mean, I've just begun it. It's huge. And my body, I can feel it in my body. And I'm having these phantom pains and all kinds of other stuff that people think. Anyway, I won't get into that right now. But I know what that is because I've been through it before. It means that there are parts of me on a psychological level that are resisting the change. And so when you resist the change, you experience challenge and discomfort. Sometimes on a big external level, like you have all kinds of problems in your life. Sometimes it's on an emotional level, and sometimes it's on a physical level. Ideally, you want it to be on the emotional level where you are aware that you are having some emotional reactions to the shift of letting go. Because when you shift, it is a death. It is an emotional death. It is a psychological death. It is a spiritual death, because you have to let go of what you were in order to shift. Remember, time is not this linear thing. Time is the ever-present now. And reality, as you know it, is continuously being manifested, microbursts of manifestation. And you are continuously going through these micro shifts all the time. And so conscious awareness is being aware of your reactions to it. And it is being aware of the attitudes, the mindset that is necessary to stay in the flow of going into the shift that you want to continue to create. And the act of, for lack of a better word, indulging, investing is a better word. Investing in the attitudes. It's not attitudes like I'm going to stay positive and happy. It's a mindset, the beliefs. Remember, if you have followed my teachings, you know that the way the first thing that you need to learn to be successful on this path is you have to be aware of your assumptions, what you assume to be true, because what you assume to be true will make the limitations, and it will define your reality. So as I said earlier, which universe do you want to live in? Do you want to live in the universe where you are subject to other beings that have other power over you, whatever they are? Or do you want to live in the universe where you have complete responsibility over yourself and your shift, your creation, your manifestation? I want to live in the other one. I'm living in it, and it's exciting and it's fun and it's also frightening and interesting and all kinds of other stuff. I could get into it. You know, today I had this feeling today. You know, I was just surfing a little while ago, so I might get a little spacey because I get tired. And for me, surfing is a very powerful meditative practice. And today I went surfing at sunset. So the sun was setting right in front of me. I wish I could just give you a picture of what it looked like. Unbelievable. The water was calm and glassy, and the waves were coming. And, you know, as I got out, the sun had sunk down, and it was twilight. And I got out of the water, and I'm walking along the beach, and I'm looking at this amazing sunset. And I had this, like the most intense, it's more intense than any drug or power plant that, you know, I've taken. I think it's probably more intense than other people have had. But again, it's this continuation of investing in the shift. And when I felt myself between the worlds, and I knew that in that moment I could tell that I was a spiritual being that was visiting this amazing world we call Earth. This unbelievable, what's the word I want to look for? It's a fantasy destination. This is a fun planet. This is a planet of vacation. People should really, this planet is really fun. And if you're not having fun, it's just simply because you haven't made the decision to enjoy this unbelievable holographic, you know, world, like the hologram that they, you know, what do they call that? The holodeck on Star Trek. We live in this holodeck. It's amazing. And I could go on, but I had this experience that lasted for I don't know how long, and I don't know what people felt, but I mean, there were, you know, it's holiday season, a lot of people on the beach, and you know, I'm like laughing and crying and weeping as I'm looking at this and I'm walking past everything. And I saw that everybody on the beach, this is the great thing about living on the beach, is that everybody comes here to have fun. You know, that's one of the things I love about it. All I have to do is open my front door and there are hundreds of people riding bikes or riding skateboards or, you know, whatever, on the beach. A lot of people surfing. This is a popular surfing beach. People on boogie boards, and everybody's there to have a good time. And that's why I love about it. It's just the vibration is so fun. And I had this experience as I'm walking along the beach and I'm seeing everybody and the tourists and the locals and the surfers coming out of the water. And I realized, I saw that everybody here is a traveler. Everybody here is a tourist to this amazing Disneyland destination that we call Earth, that has all these really cool, fun rides on it that you can enjoy. And you know, and it's our choice whether we want to be a part of that or not. And the things that take us out of that are things like, well, I have to be successful and I have to have a job and I have to blah, 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 blah. Listen, I did it. I've done it. I can remember when I was in my 20s and 30s. I chose not to surf for years at a time because I was busy making and being somebody, and none of that ever turned into anything. I learned a lot of stuff, but none of it meant anything. But if we realize that we're here, that we're tourists, and that we're here to have fun, this world, even with all of the problems and everything, can be such an amazing place to live. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is I'm going to be trying to move us towards a technique which I am getting ready to share. And I have a lot of resistance about sharing it, and I'm going to be upfront with you about it. I have some resistance about it. And I believe that part of my resistance is my own projection. I'm projecting my own resistance of my shift, continual shift. What I'm going to share with you, I'm going to share with you this technique, not tonight, but I'm going to start slowly introducing it, which is something that was used by not only Taoists, but I believe it was used by our European ancestors. And maybe we'll talk about that tonight because it's in one of our sacred mythological lore. stories in Norse mythology, and it talks about what the technique is, and I will share with you, I'll reveal to you what the secret is underneath that. That who knows, maybe nobody has known until now. The only reason I know it is because I was taught it in another tradition. It's the exact same thing. And again, for those of you who are new to the channel, or reminder, true mythology is not a story that somebody made up. It's not something that people wrote down to save their culture, and this is our culture and our religion and who we are and all that. That's not what mythology is. Mythology is a channeled, holographic piece of information that functions on multiple levels. But on the deepest level, it tells you exactly what to do to achieve magic, to achieve things that sorcerers and wizards do. And that's the job of the sorcerer. That's the job of the wizard. The job of the shaman is to tell you, here's what this means. And this is what it's trying to tell you to do. I'll give you one example. In Norse mythology, the god Thor, the god of lightning and thunder, he wears a belt. And it is said that if he is not wearing his belt, he loses his power by, I think, 1/2. Loses half of his power. Now, if you ask the average person, especially the average neo-heathen, what does that mean? They probably won't have an answer for you. But it ends up sounding like some kind of cool thing that you see in hero comic books. I guess the comic book is the wrong word. Now they want to be called graphic novels. Graphic novels, by the way, a lot of them are true mythology. But it kind of looks like one of those cool details. But what it's telling you, Thor, what is Thor? Thor is the master of life force energy, prana, chi, this kind of electromagnetic power. He is the source and the lord of that. And that detail in the myth is teaching you what people who have continuously been working in these shamanic disciplines in an uninterrupted fashion, going all the way back into prehistory, what they do to this day. They wear sashes around their belt. And they wear sashes around their belt to protect the navel center, which is the lower cauldron where the base energy of life force within the body is held and stored and purified. And this is, if you look around, you'll see yogis do this too. It protects the not only the abdomen, but it protects the kidneys and the adrenal glands, which are very important to the creation of life force energy. This is why we focus on the navel all the time. That's what that's about. So this is in mythology that goes long before the modern advent of the popular yoga or kung fu or any of that. These guys knew this. They knew this science. So I'm going to be sharing with you from one of the myths. I'm going to get to it, maybe not in this one, but we're going to talk about it. I'm going to be sharing with you a method. It's a very simple method, and it's very powerful. But if you understand it, you can be able to achieve that dimensional shift, not only in manifesting your world, but in shifting yourself. So this is why I'm your teacher. I'm your teacher not because I've achieved some high status of whatever. I'm your teacher because I'm still a human like you. And having been somebody who's trained in some of these in-depth arts, I can tell you the best teacher to have is the person who's just a little bit ahead of you. You try and train with the Grand Master, and you either won't understand them, or they'll give you something so simple or so complicated that you can't figure out what the heck's going on. And I've experienced this when I teach spirit fighting. When I have a class, what I do is, the first thing I do is I find, of the few people that I have, because I only take a few at a time, I'll find somebody who has the best teaching ability. and then I'll make them the senior student. And then I will pour a lot of knowledge into them, and then I will have them teach the class. And then I'll just go around and just shift little things. But to be able to try and, when I start showing people what to do, it's too much information for them. So they need somebody who can show them, because they're just a little bit ahead of them. And that's just me. I'm just a little bit ahead of some of you. Some of you are ahead of me in a lot of ways. So I am going to be sharing with you as I do this. This is going to be me. I think I've now come to realize, after all these years, what this technique means, what it's all about, the purpose of it. And I'm going to start applying it in my life. And as I do, I am going to share with you the specifics of how to do that. So that will come with time. So let me go ahead and, before I take any questions, I want to show a graphic of something which I think is important. So this idea of shifting dimensions, making a decision, making a New Year's resolution, if you want it to be effective, it has to be more than just, I'm going to decide to change, I'm going to, hang on one second here. Somebody's knocking. Sorry about that. My downstairs neighbor has the very bad habit of not telling people his unit. So I end up having to deal with that. And I guess I'll have to decide to change that. Anyway, so I'm going to share with you a graphic here. And this graphic here is it's going to demonstrate what happens when you make a dimensional shift. So I want to share with you, there's a difference between just deciding something, how many things are you trying to quit, or you want to do this, or you want to be more successful, or you want to have, love in your life, or you want to be healthy, or you want to, whatever it is. You know that you've invested in some ideas about, the limitations in your life, and you have to change that. So you keep giving yourself these affirmations, but for some reason it doesn't work. I want you to look at those as little tiny ripples. And the difference between the little tiny ripples and the dimensional shift is enormous. But once you get dialed in to learning how to make that dimensional shift, you'll see the difference. It creates a whole new reality. So with that in mind, I want you to watch this little graphic. It's actually something somebody put together, that what happens when two black holes come together, and I guess the gravitational wave or something that happens. But you get it. It has the same idea here. So take a look at this, and then I'll take a look at some questions here. Okay, so think about that for a moment. I'm going to take a look at see if there's any questions. I can see that a lot of people have shown up again. I'm still getting used to my new computer, so bear with me here. All right, so I'll look for the questions. Again, the best way to communicate with me is to leave a question for me and to put in the live Q&A. I'm talking about live Q&As, and the live Q&As put in all caps questions so that I can see it. Otherwise, I try to bypass just so that I can get to the questions here. Okay, so Do I see any questions here? What's going on? Let's get this thing moving here. All right, so let's see. All right, so yeah, here we go. Okay. Okay, so let's see here. Emerson's Coffee, Bike, and Rum Shop says Happy New Year, Guruji, and she gives a $2 present. I guess you can do that in the live chat. And Wilma Hopkins also, I guess that's £10. Thank you. All right, so moving on, let me see, looking for the questions. Question, Natalia Lokia says, how are you, teacher? I'm doing great. I'm feeling well after Yule. Is that Yule? J-O-L? Yule? Yule? Yes, I am. And I am ready for the new year. Thank you for asking, Natalia. Let's see, what else? There's Lindsay Rogers, hello. Ramneon, Germany. All right, so let's see. Any questions? I don't see. Do I see it? Here we go. Be more smoky. Question. Do Qigong and Hindu pranayama achieve the same effects energetically speaking? Well, Qigong, there's all kinds of Qigong, and pranayama is one form. Qigong just means energy work. So pranayama is specifically breath work, but Qigong also has breath work as well. And in fact, the technique I'm talking about has some breath work in it. So do they achieve the same effects? Yes, they do. But there are multiple kinds of energy work, especially Qigong. There's more, there's other kinds, there's breath work, and then there's all kinds of other stuff. But short answer is yes. Okay, so Andy LMT question. Is making a leap of faith the biggest indicator to the universe that you want a big dimension shift? Well, I mean, what does that mean to you, making a leap of faith? Making a leap of faith, if there is an action, and let me help you understand if what you want to know is how to send a message to the universe that will facilitate a dimensional shift. You have to take an action that is irreversible. So a leap of faith doesn't just mean one day you wake up and say, I'm going to believe for $1 million, although that could be the beginning of something. A leap of faith means, again, the best way is to give you examples in my life. So a leap of faith would be when I, in 2012, went through my divorce, and I had no money, no job, no friends, no family, no source of income, and I was, I was basically getting kicked out of my home. I was leaving a 5-bedroom, 2-story, brand new house on a half-acre lot with built-in studio and all kinds of other stuff. I was walking away from that with nothing, and that was a big enough shift. But then I went further and I said, I'm going to move and live in the mountains and live in a cabin with no money. And I jumped off the cliff and I used my credit card to put a down payment. Had no idea. I was out in the middle of nowhere. Had no idea how I was going to make money. I was making like just $300 or $400 a month on book sales. That's it. I didn't have any other income. And that was an irreversible leap. There was no going back from that. If that's what you mean by a leap of faith, then yes. If you just mean you're trying to screw up some kind of belief within inside of you, or some faith or some belief, that's not enough. There has to be a corresponding action, and that action is something you cannot take back. Once you take that action, you can't change your mind. Okay, so that's what I think I answered your question. Henry Dietrich question: how does the will of others affect, prevent, or will change of dimension? So Henry Dietrich, based on the question only, I'm assuming you're new to my channel, because you are infinite and you live in a holographic universe of your own making, and everybody else around you is also living in a holographic universe of their own making, and our little holographic universes interconnect and combine and all of that. So to ask that question, you are giving other people far too much power. So you start again to get, go back and watch, I don't know what it is. I think it's one of the ones on how to, something about how to, I forget which video it is. Anyway, the best way to make progress in my path, number one, is to take a look at your assumptions. The first assumption that you have to have is that you are infinite and that you get rid of all fear-based belief systems. That includes any belief system that says that other people have the power to affect you, to control you in some way or other. So if you're asking that question, it means what I'm hearing that I would change that assumption. How does other people's decisions affect yours? It has no bearing unless you decide to give them that power. Now, I'm not trying to minimize situations like when people have children or you're in a marriage or something like that. That's a situation where you have chosen to be in a situation where other people have the power and the right to affect your life with your decisions. It's an agreement, but that's what I would do. First thing I do is I would change that. So the answer to your question is they only have power to the extent that you choose to allow them to have power. And the only reason that we allow other people to have power over us in their actions and their beliefs, if it impacts us in ways that we find challenging, the only reason that happens is when we're doing it in order to get something from them. We want their love. We want their approval. We want, whatever it is. And that's a very normal human thing. I'm not trying to make fun of it. It's just that's what it is. The other assumption that goes along with that is that when you take action based on your following your soul desire, that which gives you the greatest joy, when you take action based on that, you help everything in the universe. So you're never in this situation where you have to choose between, well, I want to do but if I do what I want, is that going to hurt other people? If you are living in a situation where following your true joy is going to have somebody else respond to you in a way that says, you're destroying my life, then that means that you're in a codependent relationship. Because when you're in a true relationship with somebody and you're both operating from your soul desire, there is nothing your partner can do that can harm you when they're taking actions on their soul. When you follow your soul desire, everything in the universe gets lifted up. And I recommend that people, to understand this is probably the most important book I have that will lead you up to know how to make this dimensional shift technique, which I'm going to share with you at some point, is this book here. The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. Okay. So again, I don't know if I answered your question or not, but let's see here. Cosmo Joe, question, is energetic work alone the key of capability, or is there another factor? Excellent question. Energetic work is essential. Absolutely essential. Without it, you won't have the power to make the shift. So by energy work, I mean doing the Qigong. You can go onto my channel and do the Qigong. Qigong is spelled Qigong, or you can go to qigong.thunderwizard.com, qigong.thunderwizard.com. That is energy work, and that is absolutely necessary for making the shift. And I could get into that, but that's a whole class in and of itself. But is there another factor? Yes, there is. The other factor has to do with, and this is what the technique is that I'm going to share with you at some point, is to be able to align the three selves, the three energy centers, which are actually selves. You are a community of three selves. When you align the three selves and all of the three selves are aligned to the soul desire, The soul is the one that's steering the ship. When the upper self and the lower self are aligned with the center self to follow that desire, then you can make decisions. But these decisions are not normal decisions. They are the kinds of decisions that make that big dimensional shift, that wave that we saw a picture of. So that's the other thing, and that is important. Everything that I teach and that I have taught up until this point has been primarily to empower you, to give you the power to make these shifts, and to be able to give you the preliminary techniques to be able to clean out your lower self and align the three selves. That is a lot of work, and sometimes that takes years. But I'm gonna reverse engineer this, and when I share this new technique, which I think is going to take us in a whole new direction, then you're going to do the technique, and then the result of that technique is going to force you to work on realigning yourself, and it can be challenging. This is why the difference between the right hand path and the left hand path. This is the main difference. The right hand path is the path that gives you incremental things that slowly begin to give you the ability to align your three selves without destroying your ego, your sense of self. Left-hand path goes straight to the source and blows apart the ego. And both sides have its positives and negatives. The positive of the right-hand path, which is why most people do it, and this is why, this is why I'm hesitating to give this new technique, is because it works, and it works in such a way that it teaches you discipline, it teaches you self-control, it teaches you the ability to tolerate discomfort and the challenges that come, so that after years and years and years of training, somebody can hand you the simple technique and you can do it without either going crazy or whatever. And I'm saying this, I've seen people who have been given these techniques who were not disciplined and who had not done the work on themselves, and some of them went loopy, some of them went crazy, some of them made themselves very sick. And so that can be avoided, but if you're not aligned, then you end up increasing. See, here's the thing. It's not that the techniques themselves are dangerous. It's that when we act out of alignment with our soul desire, which we all do moment to moment, this is what religion calls sin. We do it. When we act out of alignment, we face challenging repercussions from that. We call it negative karma or bad karma or whatever. And so the idea is to remove all that drama so that you are less likely to make decisions that will, or actions that will take you out of alignment. That's what all of the techniques are about. That's what all of the meditation is about. That's what the mantras are about, the rituals are about. That's what all of the, standing on one leg and, holding a posture. It will do all kinds of energetic and physical things, but it also gives you the discipline to be able to feel when you're in alignment. And you slowly learn more and more and more and more how to stay in alignment. And once you get there, you don't need any techniques. Once you're in alignment, you don't need any techniques anymore. The techniques are there to help us. And so if you do a left-hand path practice, which takes you straight to the source, and you don't know how to avoid getting yourself out of alignment, the amount of energy that is connected to your choices and your thoughts and your decisions is hundreds or thousands of times normal. And so the negative repercussions are going to be hundreds or thousands of times normal. That's what the right-hand path is about. It's about protecting you. So the left-hand path isn't dangerous. You're the one that creates the danger. But if you're not mature enough, and some of us need to mature. I'm 54 years old. I've been doing this stuff for 20-something years, in terms of the esoteric stuff, and I'm finally feeling like I'm starting to see what this is all about. So that's what all the hard work is about. Anyway, I don't know if I answered your question, but that was a good one. Question, Dharma Child says, been seeing a lot on seminal retention as a means of developing life force energy, elevated consciousness. What is your experience, perspective of this? Well, I've done that. I was celibate for 6.5 years. And I did practice seminal retention. Before I get into that, I'm just going to tell you, I have done it. I have experienced it. And I'm telling you, it's a waste of time. I wouldn't bother with it. There is something to be said for being celibate, meaning not being in sexual or emotional relationships. That is important. But you know, doing these, especially really forceful external techniques to try and hold the semen in and bring it up, most of the time they don't accomplish anything. Lots of times they create a lot of heat in the body, especially if they're sexual techniques, like if you're having sex or stimulating yourself sexually and then trying to use some technique to prevent the the happy time, then all you're doing is you're creating all kinds of heat in your body, which can be extremely destructive. What I will say is that if you are practicing, like, again, spirit fighting and some of the other stuff that I do, if you practice that, what will happen is you'll naturally go into a state where you don't have to try. Your body will then start to shift it, and then the sexual energy, instead of going down, will start flowing up, and you don't even have to try. But even if you do allow yourself to have a release, you still have all the power. That's the sign of a true technique. If your technique is dependent upon seminal retention, then it's an inferior technique, and in my experience, it doesn't accomplish anything. So I would say give it up, and especially don't learn things online. Don't learn things from books. They're incredibly dangerous and they're a waste of time. Okay, that's my experience of it. Just do the stuff I teach you. You won't have to worry about that. That's the short answer. Okay. Okay, so let's see here. Henry Dietrich question. So then it is best to see it as we live alone in our own universe, and it just overlaps with each other person's universe, but they only have power in my universe if I allow it. Yes and no. I mean, at first that kind of sounds like I'm not saying that you need to isolate yourself at all. Not at all. You need to be part of this world, and you can be completely interconnected with people and have relationships with people and not let their expectations or desires dictate how you feel and what you do. This is a lot of what I do with people. It's very difficult, by the way. It's very difficult. I could go into all of that, but that's what this book is about right here. I'll read this book. The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. So yes and no. On the surface, your question sounds like you're isolating yourself in your own universe, alone in your own universe. I don't like that. But yeah, you're basically going in the right direction. Okay, Ramneon, Germany, be sure to put questions so I know you're asking a question. What if being infinite scares me? Well, what if? What do you want me to do about that? It scares me too. You think you're alone? You think you're the first person that's been afraid of infinity? If you're not afraid of infinity, there's something wrong with you. It's supposed to scare you. When you look into infinity, it means that your limitation has to come apart. You're going to die. You're either going to physically die, or you're going to emotionally die, or you're going to psychologically die. That has to happen. You know what I mean? So it's just a feeling. Fear is just a feeling. I'm far more concerned with the actions that you take. If fear defines the actions, and it's very difficult, I just want to be clear, it is very difficult and challenging to take actions that are in contrast to your feelings. So if you know that this fear of infinity is something that will limit you and you want to be in infinity, then you're going to have to take actions that are contrary to those fears, and it's going to be frightening. But so what? That's why you chose to incarnate. So being infinite seems boring to you. You just said that doesn't make, you just contradicted yourself. If you're afraid of it, it doesn't bore you. If you feel bored when you think about infinity, that's your brain trying to talk you out of it. That's called unconscious resistance. So it doesn't bore you if it scares you. So you got to decide which one is it. That's a cop-out. It doesn't bore you. Okay, Michael H. Question. After that, my father died 2 years ago. I make big dimensions shift, and many after. My reality changed a lot. Small details. It is this event of my father. Okay, so you're getting the short question is, did your father's death trigger a dimensional shift? Yes. I also went through a shift when my father died as well, and my mother and my fiance. You know, when people that are important to your life, especially parents, and they die, you do go through a dimensional shift. Yep. Yeah, I could talk a lot about that as well. Okay, so Dean Nevin's question, what is the best way to use the Uruz rune to empower yourself? Well, there's the best way. I don't know if there's a best way. There are all kinds of different ways. You can just chant Uruz. Just chant it. Read the book. I don't have the thing here because all this stuff is new. The little picture of it. But read Rune Shamanism, my book called Rune Shamanism, and learn the secret chanting technique for chanting runes. Do that. That's probably but be careful. I've seen people do that and then they end up like either super horny all the time or, you know, the runes are pretty powerful stuff. But that is one way. And the best way, I don't know what the best way is. There are infinite numbers of ways. That is one way. All right, so let's see here. Karen Wood question, are your books available in hard copy? Yes. Go to Amazon and type in, or you can just go to michaelwilliamdenny.com. Denny is spelled D-E-N-N-E-Y. Just go to michaelwilliamdenny.com. You'll see all my books, and you can have them shipped to you. If that's what you mean, in hard copy, like paperback. April Riddle, I think there's a question there. Make sure you put question in front of it so that I can see it. What if you love two people and are polyamorous? If you feel it's okay, then isn't it okay? I don't know why you're asking. Why are you asking me? That's not, you want me to make the decision for you if it's okay? Listen, I have a lot of thoughts about polyamory, and it makes me want to ask you a bunch of questions. So I don't know why you feel the need to ask me if it's okay or not. Yeah, you need to be more clear. So if you're asking that question, you obviously have some doubts. And anyway, yeah, we don't have a lot of time on this, but you need to be honest with yourself about why you're doing it. And, you know, this is why. In my experience, polyamory, you know, there's a difference between having an open relationship and polyamory. In my experience, a lot of times polyamory is something that people use to justify wanting to be in open relationships. But they don't want to be a slut or something like that, so they turn it into this, no, I love these people and I have relationships. And then you force everybody to come together and have this, you know, this relationship. And there's usually one person in the couple that is going along for the ride because they don't want to lose the other person. There was another person that came on here and asked about it and was talking as though they were polyamorous and that was the choice that they made. And when I asked a few questions, we found out that he had gotten his heart broken by somebody who wanted to have polyamorous relationships, and then that shifted him and he was afraid of getting hurt. So in order to keep himself from getting hurt, he just chose to be polyamorous. And the reality is that's not what he really wanted. What he really wanted was to be intimate with one person, but he was afraid he was going to get hurt. So that's why I say that. You know, you're asking it, obviously, you know, you have some some doubts about it. And so I don't know which side you're on. Are you the person that is afraid of intimacy, and so you want to have multiple relationships? Are you somebody that just wants to have an open relationship, but you don't want to feel like you're immoral? So you're going to make it about love, and you're going to force everybody to come together and agree, and as everybody knows, then it's okay. See what I mean? I don't know. I would have to ask you a lot of questions, and I don't have time to do that. Maybe we'll do a show on that, but we're not here to do that today. Okay, so Travis Cup says, can't semen retention cause prostate issues? Yes. Don't do it. It's a waste of time. Beyond the Rant question, what is your take on melanin dominant beings? I don't know what that means. You mean people with dark skin? Is that what you mean? Do dark skinned people, is it true more energy is able to be held because of the melanin? Where do you come up with that? Melanin is about dealing with the sunlight. It's about, I mean, I have light skin because my ancestors lived in 40,000. My ancestors lived in 40,000 years of ice ages. And so they didn't get a lot of sun. And so in order to survive, their skin had to lighten in order to be able to get the sun and create vitamin D3. That's the only reason that I don't have dark skin. I mean, I have to slather myself with, sun repellent when I go surfing. Otherwise, I would just burn the skin right off of my face. I'm so white. So I don't know where that comes from. I don't know where you learned that. I don't know that to be true. I think it just means that somebody is descended from people who didn't need to hide themselves from the sun. And here's something that'll happen. Here's the truth of the matter. You take the two whitest people on the planet, as long as they're not albino, if they have the ability to create melanin. Take the two whitest people, or you have to have a few thousand in order to have a viable population. So you take pure white people, you stick them on a tropical island and leave them there for 30,000 years. What is going to happen is when you come back 30,000 years later, they'll probably have the same physical features, but their skin will be much darker because they will have evolved in order to be able to handle the extra sunlight. That's it. Okay, so all right, so I don't know where that question comes from. Anyway, Beyond the Rant. Is there anything to be said about numerology? Okay, so you're probably new to my channel, Beyond the Rant, so my suggestion is to watch more of my videos. A lot of these questions, a lot of intellectualized questions here. If you know anything about me, I could care less about intellectual. I want actions. I want things that are going to change your life. It's fun to talk about all this stuff and to smoke weed and to sit around and what about this and what about that. It's a lot of fun, but it doesn't accomplish a whole lot. So I'm not an expert on numerology, so I can't answer that for you. All right, so I don't think I can answer the other question, so I'm not going to waste your time trying to. Let me see. All right, I think that's it for the questions. Let's take a short break. If you want to know where to get my books and where to get other services and stuff like that, we're going to do that. This will take, almost 2 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll talk more about being able to make decisions that will turn into dimensional shifts. Okay, we're back. So Beyond the Rant says, I've been binge watching all of your videos. So my apologies for misjudging you. The whole point of all of the videos that I do, a lot of them are to address the intellect. A lot of them are to, just get views and get people interested in the channel. But the point of everything I do is about the exercises and the practical results of doing the exercises. All the other talk is to make your intellect feel happy, like it knows what it's doing. It's the actions that are far more important. And so do the techniques, do the qigong, do the meditations, get a ritual from me, get a astrological reading and get a ritual from me. Do the work. That is far more important than the talk. But the talk is part of it, so that's what I'm here to do. So my apologies again for misjudging you there. All right, so now let's get into talking about how to make this dimensional shift. There's one easy method, which is you think about where you're at in your life. You think about all the things that you don't like. Think about all the things that you keep doing over and over and over again, and you keep getting the same results. Think about that. Think about the how many times have you tried to get more money or be more successful or be happy or whatever it is, and all the times that that doesn't seem to go anywhere. And realize that you may not know it. You don't have to know what it is right now, but just know that there is an unconscious assumption, there's an unconscious belief, an unconscious pattern in your unconscious mind. This is something that you chose. So an unconscious belief, people talk about being hypnotized, and our society hypnotizes us. That's partially true. But the truth of the matter is that you hypnotize yourself. And for me, I'll give you the same example I always share about myself. My father was an extremely successful physicist. A big deal in the space race. At one time, he was the man who had designed more satellites than any one man in the world. He still has satellites in the Smithsonian that he created and designed. But he had tremendous insecurity. And that came from his childhood, blah, blah, blah. But he was not comfortable with me being successful. So whenever I would start to achieve some kind of success, he would play these weird head games with me that, long story short, would make me feel like, I'm nowhere near as good as him. He would want to compete with me. And I got the message as a little kid that if I wanted my dad's love and acceptance, I had to be mediocre. I couldn't be stupid. I just had to be mediocre. And as long as I was mediocre, then he wasn't threatened, and then I felt that someday I would get his love. Now, this happens on an unconscious level. I wasn't aware that I was thinking that. This is how it works. It happens when you're a little kid. And then that was what I chose to believe. And once I created that assumption, that went into my unconscious, and it dictated all of the actions that I took. Even if consciously I was taking actions to be successful, I would unconsciously sabotage myself. So understand that if you are in one of these repeating patterns of whatever it is, even if it's something like smoking cigarettes or drinking too much alcohol, or I don't know, eating too many donuts, or what is it that I like to do? I don't know, binge watching Netflix, whatever it is. Know that even that is coming from one of these base assumptions that you, in your unconscious mind, you don't have access to, and is why it's called unconscious. You're not conscious of it. You're unaware of it. And so be aware that that is there, and that the actions that you take, an overt one is, shooting heroin. You shoot heroin, it feels good. It doesn't feel good for long, because then you start to come down or you get sick or whatever. But the point is that pain that you experience when you're doing whatever the habit is, that pain in your mind is less than the pain you would experience if you actually went after what it is you truly wanted. Because, like in my case, if I were to go after success, then I would run into the problem of my father doing some weird thing that would make me feel ashamed and unloved. And so in my mind, the pain of that was worse than the pain of being mediocre. See what I mean? So what you want to do is you want to wake up to realize that the pain that you continuously put yourself in is actually more painful than what it is you're trying to avoid. And so it took me years, and when I was old enough, I realized that being mediocre because I wanted to get my father's love and approval was far more painful and destructive to me than just simply going out and risking my father, uh, disowning me or abandoning me or not loving me. Yeah, just the thought of that is painful. But that pain is far less than the pain that you continuously put yourself through day after day after day. Right? You're in a codependent relationship with somebody that's abusive, and you don't want to be alone, or you don't want to be without this person, but you know that they're abusive or whatever, or you're in pain, or you're not loved, or whatever it is. And so you minimize it. You just little tiny minimizations, and you justify it, and you justify them. Because in reality, the pain of leaving feels more painful to you than the pain of staying. So when you can change it and become aware that the pain of staying is worse than the pain of leaving, you will leave. So that is why taking action is so important. You have to take constant action, taking actions that are contrary to your fears. When you do that, you will go through the pain. You will experience a shift. You will experience a death. And when you do that, then you start, without realizing it, you start to invest in different mentalities. And those investments in different mentalities and attitudes begin to change the parameters of what you create in your universe, as somebody called it. Okay, I don't know if I explained that well, but what I'm going to be doing with this technique is I'm going to be teaching you how to do that. Anyway, in order for all of that to happen, what has to happen is we need to be aligned on the 3 levels. So once again, I'm going to show you the little ripple thing because I think it's cool, and I want you to get that in you, because we have to do more than talk. We have to engage all parts of our brain. Get that imagination of making that life completely dimensional shifting decision or shift. And then we're going to talk about how we need to align the 3 selves in order to make that happen. Okay, so you have the 3 minds. We have the conscious, the unconscious, and the subconscious. And one of the best ways to describe that is to talk about icebergs. So the conscious mind is the tiny bit of the ice that's above the water. The subconscious is the water that comes up and down, right? That's the subconscious. Stuff like your social security number, your phone number, that stuff that you're not thinking about 24 hours a day, but it's available to you right there. That's in that part of the subconscious. That's the part of you that intends your reality. It connects with your third eye, and you focus your third eye, and with it, you do it all the time, whether you realize it. So trying to focus on your third eye, that's kind of, it doesn't really do it. You're already using your third eye all the time. You don't have to open your third eye. Your third eye is already doing it. It's just a matter, it's not a matter of opening your third eye. You can open your third eye as much as you want. That's not going to do it. What needs to happen is being able to have the 3 selves aligned, and which corresponds with the 3 minds: conscious, subconscious, and the unconscious. So this, let's see, I put this together a while ago, but this was, again, another visual to describe that. Okay, in multiple mythologies, we have the three selves. We have a trinity. We have Christianity, the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. We have the modern New Age trilogy, which is mind, body, and spirit. It's the same thing. My ancestors had the trinity of Odin, Vili, and Ve. Now, that is a nice concept. Now we're going back to the work. The Qigong and the meditation and the energy work is designed to fill up the cauldrons. You have three cauldrons. You have three selves, but you also have in those same areas you have these cauldrons which store life force energy and purify life force energy. And these are what the Chinese call the three dantians. So, why is that important? When you have done all the preliminary work, when you have done all of the psychological work, when you have done all the physical work that gives you the what's the word I'm looking for? The discipline. When you have done your mantra and your ritual and the other stuff, which is designed to go into your unconscious mind and align it and get rid of all of the um, false assumptions that limit your ability to create your world. When you have to work with somebody, when you work with your teacher, when you work with your group of fellow practitioners, and you help each other mirror with each other what your false assumptions are about yourself and about the universe, and you get rid of those things, and you start learning how to invest every single moment into first off getting rid of all the fear-based belief systems and investing in the continuous micro shift of being an infinite person, of being an infinite divine being, of being man, which means divine mind in the flesh. Human beings. Our ancestors, the word man meant male and female, it meant human. And man means moon, which means the divine mind, not the intellect, but the divine mind. I keep repeating these things over and over and over again. This is why I'm doing it. I'm repeating it. I know you've heard it a billion times. I'm going to keep repeating it so that it gets in there and it becomes an assumption. Okay? Once you've done all that work and create the assumptions, then you go to do the technique of, and I have resistance about this, you go into the technique of solidifying your connection with the three selves and aligning them. And then there's another technique. There's a technique where you then align your three selves with the three selves in the universe. So this is why, I'm not a big fan of Christianity, but there's one thing in the Lord's Prayer, which I believe the Lord's Prayer was something that was taught. It wasn't created by Jesus. That man never existed. It was taught by a rabbi, I believe. I believe it was something that was taught. Same thing with the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus didn't create that. The people who wrote the New Testament, what's that word when you steal other people's work? They took that from other existing traditions and created as though Jesus came and just spoke this thing. No, it was a teaching that was already there. So the one thing I got off track there for a second, in the Lord's Prayer is, on earth as it is in heaven. That is an attempt to try and align yourself in this reality with the eternal reality of what we would call the highest heaven, but it's the reality that exists in the highest potential state of being. It's already there. It already exists. So there is a three ones in the universe. Call them the Chinese called them the three pure ones. You can call them the three pure ones. You can call them Odin, Vili, and Ve. You can use whatever other trinity and any other, practice that they use. When you align your three selves with the highest expression of the three selves that exist in the perfection of the universe, then guess what happens? You become that. The flip side of that is you already are that. You just don't know it. And what takes you away from that, again, this is the misunderstanding about sin. Sin isn't about being evil or pissing God off or anything like that. The idea of sin is a corruption of the true teaching of being out of alignment with your divine infinite self. Somebody mentioned it frightens them. Because when you act, if you were to act 100% of the time, in every single nanosecond, in every single micro shift, if you were to stay continuously in alignment with yourself, you would phase out of existence. You would become a god. Period. End of story. That's just the fact of the way energy works. So the corruption of this is when you're sinning, you're pissing God off, and so God is going to punish you. And that's not how it works. When you act out of alignment to your highest, deepest desire, which is connected to your greatest joy, when you act out of that in fear many times because you're afraid of the death you will experience if you experience infinity, when you act out of alignment with that, then you create a false, illusionary, negative reaction that you have to live through, which is designed to teach you, to smack you around so that you'll wake up and go, that didn't feel very good. I don't want to do that again. That's what pain is. Pain, pain that comes from the result of continuously taking those actions is, it's a setup in the universe to wake you up so that you go, you know what, that just, like I said, which pain is worse? The pain of staying where you are, or the pain of taking the action you're most afraid of that will take you into the new shift? Now, your perception most of the time, if you're like me, at least, lots of times in my life for sure, is that it's more painful to make the shift than it is to stay where you are. And it's just not true. It's more painful to stay where you are than to make the shift. And again, I believe this is what disease is. I believe this is the cause of disease. All disease is that these micro investments into the justifications to keep us where we don't want to be ends up causing these negative reactions in our energy body, which goes into our physical body, which creates illness and disease and death. The ideal for human beings is that when they've reached their term on this planet, they should just die in their sleep. I think that's the idea. That's why my ancestors talked about dying in battle. What they meant by that was living fearlessly in the moment, being ready to die, doing what gives you the greatest joy. And no matter what it costs, going after that. That's dying in battle. When you do that, you will stay aligned. And then when you stay aligned, at some point you will reach a crescendo and a shift, and boom, you will be in Valhalla. You will be in that next level of being. Like in this, let's play this again, the beginning of this. That's why I created, I make these little movies. I put a lot of effort. Sometimes it takes like an hour to put these things together, but these little movies because I love doing it. But this is why I put this together like this. Okay, so I made it worth it. I've shown it twice now. Okay, so let's see if there are any questions. I hope I'm making sense here. This stuff is pretty deep and out there for me too, so hopefully I'm able to put it into words. All right, so Beyond the Rant says he's been applying everything, just so many different people talking here. So by here, you mean YouTube or on my channel? I don't know. But this is why in traditional, it's tough to learn in this age. On the one hand, it's very easy because there's so much stuff available, but it can be difficult. I should say it can be difficult to learn in this age because there's, we are being, trained. Again, we're choosing to be trained by the internet and YouTube. YouTube just keeps popping up new channels, and this is a lot of people ask me tons of questions, and I have to say, go onto my channel and watch my videos. Because when you watch one video, then another one pops up, and then you want to go and watch that guy's video. Oh, but he says that looks cool. I want to watch that. This is why when you train with a traditional teacher, they will say you have to forget everything that you've learned, and you can't have any other teachers. And it's not because they're trying to control you. Maybe some of them are, but a good teacher, it's because it's like you have to be able to focus on one path. That other guy has some really cool stuff, but he's going at it from a different angle. And you can't get to the center by coming from this angle and then going around the other side, and coming in from this angle and then going around to the other side and coming in from this angle. You'll never get anywhere. You have to pick one in the beginning and just follow that person's path. So if you like my teaching, stick with them. Just binge watch my stuff and do the things that I teach, and maybe limit your exercises to one or two. Don't do all of them. And then ultimately the best thing to do is to work with me. And at some point, I guess I'll have, I can't believe I'm going in this direction, but I think I have to. I have to start certifying people who can teach. I have to lay it out in an ABCDF fashion and give people that so they can teach people and have, mentors. I'm going to have to do it. No way around it. So, in other words, stop bouncing around. If you're trying to if there's too much information, pick one person and stick with it. I don't care if it's me or somebody else, but pick one person and stick with it. All right. Looking for the question. Again, dive into spirit. Let me see questions so I know that you're asking a question, but I did catch it. I know this is a weird question. Does the left-hand path have any connection with being left-handed? Yes and no. This is why, by the way, this is why left-handed people in the past were seen as being evil or whatever, is because, yes, the left hand connects to the right brain. The right brain is the more holographic, the more emotional, the more esoteric. Sees things, it connects emotions. So people who are more right-brained are going to do well in left-hand path stuff. Left brain people, the right arm, which connects to the left brain. Left brain people are more logical. They see things in black and white. They like to be told what to do. They like rules and regulations. And that's why, we have this clash of, liberal versus conservative. It's simply a clash between the two sides of the brain, period. That's all it is. And so ideally we want to be in the center, which is we want to have both halves working together, and then we don't have to do this stupid political dance that we're doing right now. So yes, short answer is yes. Question, Beyond the Rant, can someone be doing too much energy work? Yes. I feel like I'm always you mean constantly doing hand mudras. I'm listening to Kali mantras, Kleem, Shreem, but I enjoy it. It aligns me. So Beyond the Rant, I would suggest getting a reading from me. Get a astrological reading. You are all over the place, and it will serve you to be able to focus. And it is possible to do too much energy work. And, we need to find out if Kali is actually the deity that wants to work with you. There might be another deity that is better suited to you. So go to astrology.thunderwizard.com, get a reading from me. I can help you with that. Short answer, if you don't want to do that, pick one. Again, pick one. Pick one mudra, pick one mantra, and stick with it. You need discipline. Okay, we all need discipline, but I can tell by your question you also need discipline. Hey, Black Earth Productions, good to see you. For those of you who aren't, I doubt if any of you aren't, but if you're not familiar with Sethicus Boza, you can go to his channel, Black Earth Productions. You can go to his website, blackearthproductions.com. Productions is with a Z, productions.com. Very powerful stuff, and I highly recommend looking at his information. Okay, Black Earth Productions question, can you turn your volume up? I don't know if I can or not. I may just be, yeah, this is all new stuff, so let's see here. I think that's about as high as it can go, so you may have to turn it, I don't know. Give me my apologies. You'll have to deal with it for now. Okay, Travis Cup, can you give us the technique tonight, please? No. Discipline. Patience. I'll tell you something about these truths. The thing about these kinds of teachings, maybe if I get closer to the computer, it'll be louder. The thing about these kinds of teachings is that if you are meant to have them, there's nothing in the universe that can stop you from having them. If you're not meant to have them, even if I hand it to you, you won't know what to do with it. So wanting me to give it to you tonight already tells me you're not ready. Because you think if you have it right now, I need it right now. You're coming from fear, you're coming from insecurity, all the things that I tell you not to come from. At the same time, I understand. I want you guys to be excited about it. I'm talking about it because, number one, I need to get comfortable with sharing it. This is an incredibly powerful technique. And I don't know if I'm ready to give this out because I don't know how I feel about giving it away. So I want to create some anticipation about it, but know that this is part of giving you the technique. You have to go into the shallow end first. If I throw you into the deep end, you might drown. And that is part of my responsibility. Dean Nevins, question. Is it counterproductive to do more than one 40-day ritual at a time? Yes, it's counterproductive. You know, listen, I relate to all you guys, but this inability to focus, the impatience, all of that comes from a lack of discipline and a lack of structure and a lack of maturity. I suffer from it myself. It's part of our culture. It's a part of how we've chosen, you hear what I'm saying? It's part of how we've chosen to be manipulated. It's part of how we have chosen to be hypnotized by our culture. So you have to overcome that because impatience it will, you know, you've probably heard it. I don't know if you have or not. I've shared about it before. The student goes to the Kung Fu master and he says, Master, I want to be a black sash or whatever. I want to be a black belt as quickly as possible. How long will it take me to get a black belt if I practice 2 hours a day? And the master says, it'll take you 10 years. He goes, oh, that's too long. I can't wait 10 years. What if I practice 4 hours a day? And the master says, then it'll take you 20 years. So stop trying so hard. And, you know, you've got to be patient. You know, let's say if you have, I was going to say some other disease. Let's say if you have a sinus infection and the doctor gives you antibiotics, right? Do you take, if you take all the antibiotics, is it going to fix you, or do you take it one a day for, you know, a week? You got to go in incremental orders. You've got to have discipline, otherwise it won't do you any good. And I'm telling you, not only from my experience, but I've seen other people. So one thing at a time. You know, any one of my teachings, if you do the Hool breath, if you do the Thor's hammer Qigong, just pick one of them. I guarantee you this. If you pick one of them and just do that one for the rest of your life, it'll give you everything you need. If you do the Hool breath for an hour a day for 10 years, come back and talk to me at the end of 10 years because I'm going to have a lot of questions for you. I haven't done it that long. I don't do that. But if you did that, you'd get everything you needed. I've already given you everything. Truth is, I've already given you everything you need. Discipline and consistency is what will get you where you want to go. All right. Let's see here. Looking for some more questions. Sorry for that. I'm just looking for questions. Okay. All right. So that's it. I'm going to take a short break here. I'm going to come back, and I think probably we'll wrap this up pretty quick because, yeah, we've been on for an hour and a half. So let's take a short break here. Again, let's enjoy the movie because I put so much time into making these intros. All right. So before we leave, I want to talk to you about the Norse myth that I shared with you that was a teaching about this technique. I shared about this on the Patreon channel. I shared with people on there the Taoist. There's a scripture, if you want to call it. It's actually just a manual. It's a manual on a specific kind of meditation. It's a meditation that's designed to align the three selves. It's called Holding the Three Ones. If you want to look it up, feel free to look it up. You might be able to find a book. I don't know if it's still in print. You probably won't understand most of what's in it because it's in this Chinese. Even though it's translated in English, you like what the hell is this? What are they talking about? What is the Ling Pao Tong Ching whatever? But feel free to go get it. It's called Holding the Three Ones. And again, this technique is that you meditate on the three selves, the three centers, and you meditate on being aligned with them. And it has to do with visualizing certain colors and bringing them into the centers, and then feeling yourself connect to the three centers, the three selves of the universe. And then there's a chant. What's important about it is the magical chant that comes afterwards. Again, if you look at the one that's, even if it's translated from Chinese, it may work for you, but for the most part, it's got all kinds of symbolism that doesn't mean anything to us. So unless you're, a Taoist in ancient China, it's not going to mean anything to you. At least it didn't me. Maybe it will you. I don't know. It didn't me. But I practiced that technique for a while, and it did a lot of really interesting things for me that I didn't understand at the time. I'm starting now to understand. And I think I'm probably feeling the effects now of doing the technique 20 years ago. And it even says, you have to do the technique for X amount of years before when it aligns, and then in waking consciousness, you see the three selves outside of you and you see yourself connected to them, then boom, you become a perfected immortal. Means you no longer on this plane, you become something else. But as you're getting there, it's teaching you how to manifest your reality, which is what this whole life is about, by the way. This whole life is about teaching the soul how to manifest reality. That's all it is. That's the only reason we're here. I shouldn't say that's the only reason we're here. Having said that, I would honestly say, as corny as it sounds, that love is the most important thing. And experiencing love and coming from a state of love and being continuously in that state of love, self-love and love. That's really the most important thing. But the most important lesson that we incarnate to do is to learn how to manifest reality. That's it. So stop wasting time with stuff that doesn't help you do that. That's all. You know, we waste so much time. When you leave this life, I guarantee you, remember that I told you this, because you'll remember it, and you'll see that I was right. When you leave this life, the only thing you're going to worry about is, did I fulfill all of my desires? That's it. You're not going to give a crap about how much money you had, or how much stuff you had, or how much success. You won't care less about any of that stuff. You'll only care about if you achieved your desires. And the only way to achieve your desires is to live in alignment with your eternal divine soul. That's it. So the chant, what I was going to say, the meditation and the visualization, all that stuff leads you up, and then there's energy work that you do which empowers you to then, when you say the chant is what then changes the way that you think, and it puts you in this place where it creates that dimensional shift, whether you feel it or not, that then you go into your life, you know, every day from that point on, learning how to align yourself in every micro moment, micro shifts, doing those micro shifts in every moment. And so I'm struggling with this because, like I said, it's incredibly simple, but at the same time, it is very powerful. And I'm on the fence, and I'm talking myself. What I'm doing with this is I'm talking myself out of my resistance to not only experience it myself, because now that I've come up with a new way to put all this stuff together, and a new way to do the chant, and a new way to do the meditation, that if I start practicing it, am I ready for what it's going to do to me? Am I ready for that? So that's my resistance. But at the same time, I want to make sure that if I teach it in a way that it won't create Darth Vaders out there. Because I've seen it do that. I've seen people follow this stuff and turn into little Darth Vaders. By the way, I've been binge watching Lost. And at the end, you know, when Lost gets really weird and corny at the end, now when I'm coming at it with this, I'm seeing everything very differently than I did before. And if anybody wants to know who the god Thor in Lost is, you know, the Netflix, or I don't know what TV show that was, or what station that was on. The Desmond is Thor. So somebody asked me, you know, about energy work. Energy work is the necessary part. You do all the exercises, you do all the talking, you do all the mantra and the ritual. The energy work is what gives you the ability to bridge the gap between the conscious and the unconscious mind. I'm just learning this. That's why you can't just do things like magic and chanting or that kind of stuff, or just ritual. You have to do the energy work, because the energy work is what bridges between the conscious and the unconscious. And the energy work is what gives you the power to become conscious. Meaning, like in the way that the spell is laid out, is that when you do the spell for 10 years, assuming that you're staying in alignment with yourself, then you will see in waking consciousness, you will see the three selves, the eternal three selves, and then you'll be able to merge with them and become an immortal. The power that allows you to be conscious is energy work. So that's why I teach energy work. So it's important to do that. Qigong.thunderwizard.com. If you don't know where to start with the energy work. Then when you've done the energy work, then do the mantra and the ritual. And work with you can go to thunderwizard.com and start working with the 8-sided thunder wheel. That's very important too. All right, so those are all classes in and of themselves. I'll check to see if there's any more questions, and then I think we're done for today. Natalia Lokia, let me see. I just want to make sure What if I'm just going to look for the questions here? Okay. Nope, bunch of questions I almost missed. All right, so question: what is my opinion on sun gazing? I don't. I know that it's a big popular thing. I wouldn't bother with it. I know it is a practice, but you know, if you're going to do it with somebody who actually knows how to do it. Don't learn it online. It's the same with seminal retention. Don't pick up something you read in a book, or you know, people. And the reason, part of it is that I have an issue with it, is because it's connected to beliefs that have a basis, a fundamental basis in fear. You know, you know, the whole flat earth thing, or the whole, you know, escape the matrix thing. And if you focus on and sun gaze, then you'll get to the thing. It's coming from this fear of being trapped. You're already infinite, so don't worry about that. So if you're sun gazing because you think it's the one thing that's going to get you the thing so you can get out of the matrix, it doesn't matter. I can tell you from experience, myself and others, you can have a technique that will give you and help you achieve whatever it is. If you're doing it with the need to escape, you never will, no matter how much power you gain. So I say get rid of it. It doesn't do anything. There's a lot of people doing it wrong. You could hurt yourself. So that's my opinion. You ask my opinion, I say don't do it unless you can find an actual master who will train you in person. Otherwise, I think at best, it won't give you what you want. Black Earth Productions question: did you see what everyone saw over the sky on December 22nd? I didn't. I think I saw something on Yahoo or something, but no, I didn't. Natalia Lokia. Oh, she's spamming. I hate to spam, but I just released my first video. It's about soul incarnation, destiny, and Gen. Check out my channel. Natalia Lokia is a very powerful staff carrier, and I would listen to what she says. So go to her channel. What is your channel, Natalia, so that I can tell people where to go? And you can also go to Black Earth Productions, and Natalia and Sethicus have a really great conversation. I would go check them out too. Okay, let's see. Looking for the questions here. Yeah, don't put links, by the way. Don't put links. You'll end up getting spam. But if you tell me what it is, I will. If you spell it out in a certain way that I'll relate that. All right, looking for the questions. Questions. Ari Levine question: would you recommend doing daily loving kindness meditations? Sure, why not? How can that hurt you? As long as you're not doing it because you want to save the poor children, and as long as you're not seeing yourself wanting to save people, remember that everybody is equal. Remember that everybody has the same access to infinity that you do, and that you have the same access to infinity that everybody else does. So anybody, no matter how far down the scale, no matter how, you know, screwed up or poor or cursed or, you know, unlucky they are, no matter where they are, if they're face down in the gutter in, you know, a third world country somewhere, they have the same access to infinity that you do. And so if your loving meditation, in my opinion, puts you on the same plane with them so that you feel that same love for yourself that you do for others, then sure, I can only help you. I don't see any problem with that. Okay, Natalia Lokia question. Teacher, as I have an emotional agenda, I want to know if you appreciate the hearth charm I sent. I would like to know if you like it, and thus if I should make more. Thank you, Natalia. My apologies. I haven't opened any of my Christmas presents yet. I've been really busy, and I've been playing with the gifts I bought myself. So I will get to it, and I promise I will let you know. But I am already extremely happy, and it was an extremely sweet thing to do, to give it to me. So. Yes, I'm sure that I will love it, but I'm not going to tell you that until I actually look at it, and then I'll let you know. Thank you so much, by the way. I appreciate that. Let's see. Looking for the question. Write out question. Come on, put some effort into it. Don't just put a Q in there. I might miss it. Meditation is a way of energy work sometimes. It depends on if you're doing actual meditation or if you're doing intellectualized visualization. Much intellectualized visualization is just that. It means nothing. A lot of the times when you go to a meditation workshop and somebody is guiding you through a meditation, it's just your intellect. And it's really accomplishing nothing. But yes, a true meditation usually is a method of energy work. Okay. Natalia says, my channel is this one. Natalia Lokia, click my name. So I don't know if you put if you tried to put a link in there, it probably didn't come up. So if you can spell it out what it is, if it's Natalia Lokia, I guess what you're saying is just NATALJALOKJA. Is that your channel? Anyway, looking for the question. Beyond the rant question, can you explain how important the Vedic reading is to do? Ask anybody who's had one. They'll tell you. I think it's extremely important. And listen, that's my main job right now. I'm taking time off. I'm not doing it. Wasn't my intention to become a full-time Vedic astrologer. It wasn't. But there's a reason why I'm really busy doing it now. This is what reading will do for you. It will, when you get a reading from me, I guess the main thing it will do is it will show you how the three levels of your mind work. We all have a conscious, an unconscious, and a subconscious mind. But we all interface with our three minds differently. So how I access my three minds is not necessarily going to be the same as you. Okay? So what happens is I will tell you which planet vibrates with which part of your mind, which relates to which part of yourself. The ritual and the mantra then will align you specifically to your vibration to help you align your three minds. That's what probably the most important thing, what I do. We're not all the same. There are general things that we can all do which will have the same effect, but if you want to go in for brain surgery basically and really clean up that lower self and clean up that unconscious mind so that you can focus in the proper direction, then that's what the reading is for in a nutshell. Let's see what else here. Let's see. Okay. Question. Leela. Hi, Leela. I don't know if I've seen you. I have a good friend of mine whose name is Leela. I wonder if you're the same person. Probably not, but hello. I have my reading with you this week. Is there anything you recommend that I do to prepare? Nope. I'm going to send you notes, or I may give you the notes right at the time of the reading. Just follow through. You'll see. If people that have done it will tell you. You just sit back and listen. It'll all be very clear. I guess if you want to do some preparation, just be thinking about how can I connect to my highest joy, my greatest happiness. Just ask that question. Okay, so that's it with all the questions right there. So I'll talk a little bit about this. If you want to get a head start on this technique, read the myth called I don't know if I pronounced this right, Gylfaginning, the myth about King Gylf, the Swedish king who went into shamanic trance. It doesn't tell you that, but that's what happens. Went into shamanic trance and entered into a cavity in the center of his brain. Doesn't tell you that either, but that's what's happening. In that myth, what's happening is that this is a human being, whether this is a real person or whether the gods just created a story to tell you how to do this technique. Went into the central chamber of his brain where he saw within him the the three selves, Odin, Vili, and Ve. I believe they're called high, higher, and just as high, I think is the name that they're called. But those are the three eternal, the trinity of the universe. We call them Odin, Vili, and Ve. Chinese call them the three pure ones. And he went into that place and he communicated. That's part of what happens. You learn to communicate with them. And you get yourselves to communicate with the three selves in the universe. If you have enough positive karma connected to you, if you have enough powerful orlog, if you have the ability and you're listening to what I say, you won't even need to do the technique. But I have to do it, so there's probably a good chance you do too, because I haven't achieved that clarity to my knowledge yet. That's the whole point of this thing. Maybe I have. I could be totally wrong. Maybe it's just that simple. I could be wrong. But that's what the Gylfaginning is talking about. And the important phrase in that is in the beginning, before he goes into the shamanic trance and enters the central cavity of his brain and has this vision. He is wanting to know how it is that the Aesir, the celestial gods, how is it that they are able to manifest their desires? It's what he was focused on. What am I teaching this whole time? What is the book that I tout the most, even though it's not the most popular? The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. That book is all about meditating on what your desires are. This guy wanted to know, how is it that the gods can manifest their desires? And he must have really been focused on that intention. You know, in olden days, the kings were shamans. You couldn't be king in ancient Norway and ancient Sweden way, way, way back when, unless you had shamanic power. Because you had to be the one that had the ability to decide, you know, to bring the rain or to bring the harvest or to protect yourself from enemies. You had to have that power. And if you didn't have that power, you didn't last as king for very long. So King Gylf, if he wasn't a real person, he is a myth about the fact that he is, and the soul is the king, by the way. King is representative of your soul. So it means being connected to your soul, not to your other weirdness or garbage or, you know, your justifications or your fear or your any of that stuff. You're connected to your soul and you meditate from the soul. You can't meditate from the soul if you're operating from fear, by the way. I want to achieve enlightenment. I want to be out of pain. Show me that one technique that'll give me power. Show me how to move objects. Show me how to do shamanic journeying. Show me. If you come from that place, you'll never achieve anything. Come from the place of happiness, place of your soul. Your soul is a place of joy. Doesn't mean we don't have difficulties. We do. Doesn't mean we don't have challenges or negative emotions. I've wept today. I can't tell you how many times I've wept today, for reasons you already know. I'm still working through that. I still have that, just like everybody else. But I also have, as I weep, I also have times of amazing joy. Like I think it's going to continue to increase. If you meditate from the soul, you can be assured of success in whatever your endeavor is. So the point of that is that if you find yourself wanting to achieve something or wanting to meditate, everything is love and light. I just want to be in the light. If you operate from that, you're not going to get very far. So that's why if you don't know what it is to be in that state, you have to ask yourself the question. In a perfect universe where I don't have to please anybody, and I don't have to make money to survive, and I don't have to do anything anybody else wants, in that universe, what is the one thing that makes me happy? And then go do that thing. Mine is surfing. I just spent a ton of money. You don't want to know how much money I spent on myself this Yuletide, this Christmas. and I stopped doing it when my soul stopped jumping for joy. I'd look at a surfboard, and if my soul jumped for joy, I'd buy it. And even if I thought I wanted it, if I didn't get that, I didn't. And when it stopped happening, I stopped buying. So I was out today and I christened it. I haven't decided yet what name I'm going to give it, but I played with giving it a name, and I had the most amazing experience. I don't know if it's possible to be happier than I am. I think it is possible, but anyway, I'm very happy right now. I am living in an altered the world, the earth is just an amazing place. It is such a magical place. Mother Nature is so magical. Anyway, may you all have that experience as well. All right, so I'm going to check to see if there are any last minute questions, and if not, I'll go ahead and wrap it up. Okay, so I have to backtrack to see who said what. Okay, so answered that question. Henry Dietrich, question. We have our three minds. That is a statement, sir, not a question. How do you see the Filcha? I see her as also being a complete soul with her own three minds. Is this accurate in your experience? That's a great question. You know, to be honest with you, I'm not an expert in the Filcha, which for those of you who aren't familiar with it, is similar to the, quote, Native American shamanic tradition of the, what do they call that? The animal spirit, or the helper spirit, or the, I forget what they call it. There's names that they have. So from the mythology, I can tell you this. Mythology, the Filcha is two. There's two kinds of Filchas that I've seen, or fetch. In English, it's fetch spirit. One is an ancestor spirit, a female ancestor spirit that we would, and I've seen mine, or at least one of mine. If you see it in a vision, or if you see it in waking consciousness, it's there to protect you or to guide you, or something really important is going on. The other fetch spirit is an animal spirit. This is a protector spirit and a guide that helps you on an energetic level, but you're not supposed to see it in waking consciousness. If you do, and I'm not seeing if you see like a bear or an otter or whatever it is, but if you actually see a spirit of an animal running in front of you, it means you're about to die. So you don't want to see your animal spirit in waking consciousness. It guides you in dreams and in visions. But the other one, the female spirit, the guardian angel is what I thought it was when I saw mine when I was 7. That one can appear to you and can speak to you, and that is also called a fetch. That's what I know. You may have another experience. It wouldn't surprise me at all if you see her, you said her, as being a complete soul with her own three minds. Makes perfect sense, because that would mean that she is an ancestor. So, yes. Carolyn McKenzie, thank you very much for that super chat, $6. Thank you very much for that. Cosmo Joe, question. Are the three centers, Odin, Vili, and Ve, the same as the three Dantians? Yes. And also selves of the Kahuna system? Yes. It's all the same. It's a science. If it wasn't a science, then how is it all these differing traditions that go back into prehistory? How is it that they all, when they're thousands of miles away, how is it they all have the same science? Either there were, Tahitian guys, paddling all the way up to Norway to share them with them, or vice versa, or these people are having their own experience and seeing this science and explaining it in the way that they understand the most. So I would say absolutely yes. And I've studied some of those that you mentioned. I think maybe all of them. Yes, I have studied all three of those. Okay. Questions. Black Earth Productions, question. What is the best technique? Well, I don't know what best is to increase healing abilities. What is a good technique for increasing healing abilities? See, everybody's different. I am a healer. I do have the effect of healing people, but it's not because I have any special, technique that I use. My technique is teaching what I teach. When people come to me and they're sick, what I do is I help them focus on their soul desire. So if you ask me, what is the best technique for me to use to increase healing abilities? It's being able to, number one, know your own soul desire, which again is the desire that brings you the greatest joy, regardless of how many people you piss off going after it. And going after it regardless of what anybody else says or tries to prevent you from doing it. And then I would say having the ability to help others. Most of the time, and by the way, anybody out there, if you don't know what it is you're supposed to do in life, give me a call. I mean, don't call me on my phone without having made an appointment first, but some people actually do, by the way. They somehow get my number and they call me, and then they, without my permission. Anyway, unless, of course, you're a friend of mine, which, of course, you can call me if I've told you you can call me. Get a session with me. Go to astrology.thunderwizard.com, and if you haven't, or if you've already got a reading and you still don't know what you're supposed to do with your life, get an astrology reading, purchase an astrology reading from me, and then email me and say that you want a private session to learn what your soul desire is. I can't give you both a reading and help you with your soul desire in one phone call, just to let you know. It's going to be one or the other. But, if I talk to you for an hour, I know that we're going to find out. At the very least, we're going to get you focused in the direction. Sometimes it takes multiple sessions to be able to avoid the unconscious resistance that wants to talk you out of it, because it will. But that's my gift. My healing gift is I help people get connected to that. And in my experience, that when you do that, the body will heal itself. Now, that's my gift. I know other people. If you don't know of him, a guy named Michael Lomax. Go look him up. He's a Qigong healer. He is a guy who does his meditations and he pulls energy directly from the universe, stores it in his lower dantian, and then either with his hands or with his intention, he'll pump energy into you and heal you that way. That's his best technique. So the best technique is whatever works for you. So I'm sure that you have, let me see, I only got through part of your question here. What is the best technique to increase healing abilities? To channel raw power of Seed and Galder in order to manifest Loker. I have this, meaning he does, Black Earth Productions, but want to go to the next level. So I don't know if I just gave you the next level for you, but again, what's important is to follow what you've been given. Let me tell you again, you guys have heard me say this, let me tell you again what gifts are. Or abilities. Those of you who want special abilities, you want to be psychic, you want healing gifts. Gifts of power do not mean that you have achieved anything special. It does not mean that you get to sit around and say, I have thus and such technique. I am this. Listen, I'm a teacher. I'm a wizard. I have the ability to do what I'm doing here. I know that just by me connecting and speaking that people are shifted. I know that just by being in people's presence, they shift. I know that. I've experienced it. I don't take any, it doesn't mean anything. I'm still human. None of that has changed. What it means is that every time I heal somebody through my teaching or through whatever I do, it means that I have paid back a karmic debt that I owed them. So if you have the ability to heal, or if you have the psychic ability, or if you have the ability to see spirits, and whatever your ability is, all that means is that you are paying back, you are balancing out your karmic debt sheet. That's all that it means. And so that's why it's important to do that. There's a difference between doing that work and following your soul desire. I'm very clear about that. My soul desire is to surf. I did it today. I'm happy. That's one of the reasons I'm so happy, because I followed my soul desire in my favorite beach in the world. I can't think of any other beach I'd rather be at. The best surfing, most consistent. It was beautiful today, 74 degrees, the sun coming down over the ocean, and the dolphins and the beautiful waves. Makes me very happy. My job, what I do for money, this is how I pay back my debts, how I realign the, the sins, the misalignments that I've done in past lives. And if somebody, there has been people where I don't expect this from me. I'm not saying it happens, but there have been people come to me and they learn, and I put my hand over one woman's head and all this energy. She said, "Oh, what'd you do?" Totally shifted her. All that happened is whatever happened is that I balanced out some imbalance that happened in a previous life. That's it. So if you have the ability to heal, that's how you balance yourself out. If you, whatever your gift is. So that's the point about spiritual gifts. You can go after them. This is, again, why celestial qigong is so helpful. When you do celestial qigong, what's going to happen is people say, "What am I going to learn? What am I going to get?" And I say, "I don't know. I don't know what your karmic debt is." But if you practice that, you will build up your energy to a point where there will be a breaking point, and then your gift will become known to you. And it's, again, your way of aligning yourself so that you can balance things out, so that you can be free of any karmic garbage that's hanging on that you've created for yourself. That's the whole point of service. You do service, you do your job, get paid for it. That's how the world works. It's how the universe works. You have to be given something in exchange for what you give. But the reason you do it is so that you can balance out the ledger sheet so that when you're all done, there's nothing left. And then you can move on to the next level. Okay? So I think I answered your question. Thank you. That was a great question. Okay, looking for other questions. The name of the Swedish king is King Gylf. Gylfaginning, if you look for that. Gylfaginning. Gylfaginning. Okay, looking for the question, Cosmo Joe. So ultimately it's about alignment of energy, will through circulation and organization. Is this the best comprehension of the great work? I don't know if it's the best comprehension. It is a comprehension. It sounds a little intellectualized, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. The easiest thing to do is to just connect to your joy. Then you don't have to think about it. But sometimes we have to think it through. So I don't see anything wrong in what you've said. But I wouldn't say that, I wouldn't write that down as a law either. Like, that's how it works. That is potentially how it might work. Okay. Beyond the rant question, do experiences give a person energy? I don't know. You have to give me what kind of experiences. Experiences in general, you're constantly having an experience all the time. Do you mean spiritual experiences? Like, ooh, I had a spiritual experience. Do they give a person energy? No, not all the time. Sometimes they take energy. This is why I don't recommend doing power plants or recreational chemicals. And anybody who's done energy work, if you've done celestial qigong, you know what I'm talking about. If you do celestial qigong and then go smoke weed, your body is going to hate you for it. I have one practitioner who called me up. One of my apprentices called me up in the middle of the night and said, "My energy body's freaking out. I'm dying." It's because he was doing energy work and his ritual, and then he went and smoked weed, and it messed him up. His body said it felt like it was under attack. So that's why spiritual experiences can take energy from you as well as give energy. So if you're asking that because you're asking, should you go seeking spiritual experiences? Listen, there's no such thing as an experience that is not spiritual. I'm having a spiritual experience right now. I'm going to have a spiritual experience when I go sit on the toilet. You're going to have a spiritual, everything is a spiritual experience. Because you had some lights flashing or you felt something or something, or you went out of your body, to make that more spiritual than what you do every moment of every day is an illusion. Remember, every single microsecond you are having micro shifts. And every single microsecond you are investing in something. And if you can be conscious to invest in the infinity and creating that infinity, then you don't care whether you're having a spiritual experience or a physical experience. I mean, today I had the most incredible shamanic experience of, I want to say, of my life. I don't know if that's true or not, but it sure felt like it. And I was in completely 100% waking consciousness. Everything is a spiritual experience. And when you get to the point where everything is lined up, I think that's a sign that I'm getting pretty lined up. Because when you get everything lined up, then you can have that at any moment. So, yes and no. Let me see. So it seems like, see, people ask questions and then they give me statements. So he asked a question and then he said, the deeper the valley, the higher the mountaintop. Seems like people that suffered in life that learned the lesson, you seem like you've been through it. Okay, yeah. So I think I'm in agreement with you there. All right, looking for the questions. Looking for the questions. Looks like, I think people are talking to each other, which is fine. Okay, Jules Verne, the best way to get my attention is put question in all caps. This is only for the live Q&A. It's not if you're just wanting to leave a question on my channel. You can just leave a question on my channel or on the video. But let's see. I think you had a question here. Thunder Wizard, do you look through the eyes of the eagle? Interestingly enough, you asked that. I was told by a Sikh master that I am the eagle and the fish. And I believe that's true. So I would have to say yes, I probably do. I think you have your own specific context that you're asking that question from that I don't know. So, but it's interesting that you asked that because somebody did tell me that. What is my preferred element? I like them all. I really like ether, but I like them all. Okay. So dive into spirit. I think you're asking me a question. So if in reverse, if you went to someone for a healing that you were guided to go to them, have they had unbalanced energy exchange with you or hurt you in the past life? Probably. But you're not supposed to care about that. So don't worry about that. That's none of your business what they did or didn't do. And it's none of their business what you did or didn't do. It's none of your business what you did in a past life, otherwise you'd remember. You only remember the stuff, you realize we only remember the negative things. We only have negative, right? When you have a past life experience, it's I died this, I died that way, they did this to me, I was burned at the stake as a witch, right? You don't remember all the, you're not supposed to remember stuff. If you are, you will. So don't worry about it. So who cares? Just go get healed. If you're going to go get healed and forget about the rest of it. Natalia Lokia, question. When you said that today you had the most powerful spiritual experience, would you say this is as the more you are aligned, the more intense your experience, the closer to you are infinity? Well, that's putting that has the potential to put a kind of a judgment on it. I would say yes, that as you are more aligned, the more intensely you experience life, because in my experience, when we're misaligned, a huge amount of our RAM, a huge amount of our energy goes to justifying, minimizing, trying to manipulate, and we all do it. We all do it. We wouldn't be human if we didn't. Having expectations. I go through it all the time. There are people that are in my life that I'm finding myself, I'm wanting to find ways to control, manipulate them. And I just catch myself. I just have to catch myself when I'm doing it, before I do it. That's part of, you have to catch yourself. And then when you get to the point where your soul has learned that that doesn't accomplish anything, you'll stop doing it. And then you'll be completely aligned and you'll be in complete awareness, which I believe is an intense experience. So the reality is that at any moment of any given moment, we are having a super intense experience all the time. But it's so multi-layered and we're so divorced and we have conscious and unconscious. there's a part about being a human being that we try hard to tune things out so that we can function. And part of that happens when we misalign and we stay in a state of misalignment. Then things get dull. That's why people drink and do drugs and have a lot of sex when they're not happy. It's because they're in that place where they're, misaligned, and they're justifying and minimizing, and that dulls the experience. Anyway, I hope I answered your question. Again, this is all my opinion. Do with it what you want. Yeah, Black Earth. Goodbye to you, my friend. Yes, contact me. You still have an open invitation. I want to interview you, brother. So get back to me when we can do that. We're looking for the question beyond the rant question. Is there such a thing as being owed karmic debt? Why are you asking that? The only reason you would ask that question, I think, is because you don't feel like you have enough and you want somebody to give you what it is you think you... Remember, you have everything. You have infinity. If they owe you something, that's their business. They're just trying to balance themselves out. It has nothing to do with you. So don't waste your time thinking about other people. And how does one know? Why should you know? It's none of your business. It's none of your business. They can potentially go through their existence and not pay back their debt to you, and that will have no effect on you whatsoever. When you allow people, by the way, when you allow people to serve you, you're helping them. You're helping them. That's why it's better to give than to receive. That's why. Because when you give, you're giving. You're the one that's really getting the gift. So anyway. Okay, so I don't have any more questions here. So I'm going to do a little bit of short business, and then I think I'll have something last thing to say, but we're getting really close to the end here. So let's see here. Hang on for just a second. Okay, so I guess the last thing that I want to say is I am looking, first off, just to recap very quickly, we have entered into a new shift. We have entered it. It has happened. It is going to be, I am predicting, I might be wrong about this, but I am predicting that it's going to become increasingly much, much more difficult to operate in old ways. People who hang on to the old ways of doing things, you're going to see people going into major challenge very quickly, much more fast than they did before. Because we're in this new phase of being able to intend your reality. And in order to intend your reality, you have to be aligned with yourself. Let me just address one thing, which I think sort of symbolizes everything here, which is money. So many people, I myself, still continue, my brain still goes there. I deal with clients whose brains go there, which is when we talk about soul desire, what is it that you want to do? I want to do this, 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 and this. Okay, well then why aren't you doing it? Well, I need money first. If I just had a lot of money, that is a false idea that is not natural, and it is a very new idea to the human mind. When you think about our shamanic ancestors, our primitive ancestors who lived in nature, they didn't have supermarkets, they hunted and gathered, even if they planted crops. If some Lakota guy on the plains, 500 years ago, if you were to drive up next to him with a refrigerated truck full of buffalo meat and just, you know, emptied it onto the plains there, he would say, "What are you doing? I can't do anything with this. I can take maybe one of them. I'll take one of them back, and we can, you know, we can dry that and salt that and eat that, and but I can't do anything with the rest of it. It's wasted. It's just going to sit there, and that's too much money." So those of you who think, if I had $1 million, if I just had all kinds of money, I'm not saying you can't have that. What I am saying is that money is like that. It rots. And so the need to feel like you have to have something in order to be okay, if I just have enough of this, then I can go do that, is a false understanding. I've lived it. I can promise you, not only do you not need a lot of money to live, but I can promise you that if you are in alignment with yourself, even if you're dirt poor, even if you're broke, even if you're in debt, the universe will give you everything that you need, whether that is a place to live, whether that's money, whether that's a car, whether that's whatever it is. And just like our primitive ancestors, when they ran out of that meat or that buffalo or that oryx that they had killed, they would then go and hunt for another one because they knew that the universe, that Mother Earth would provide. And you don't want more than what you can handle. I'm sitting in a chair. I can only sit in one chair at a time. I can only drive one car at a time. I can only sleep in one bed at a time. Even though I have more surfboards than I need, I can only surf one surfboard at a time. You only need what you need, and that's all you need to worry about. And when you can live like that, then you can take those micro shifts. You can be flexible and move and go. And you know, I love the way that I live. I love that I don't own any property. Because if I decide to move to South America tomorrow, I can do it. See what I mean? That's the place to be. To live in the flow, letting things flow through you. That really is far more important than this technique I'm going to be sharing with you. But if you look at it in terms of the technique that I will be sharing with you when I'm ready to share it, is really just a way to give you what I just talked about. Then you'll understand what it's for. If you're trying to do it because you want to escape reality or you want to be superhuman, you know, any kind of fear-based, greed-based stuff, you'll miss it. It won't matter even if I give you the perfect thing, you still won't get it because you'll be coming from fear and of an incorrect assumption coming from a state of lack. You already have everything. You have access to infinity already. All you have to do is just learn what it is to live in your highest awareness and just take the risk. Die to yourself every moment. Die in battle every moment, as that my ancestors called it. And every moment do that. And if you're able to do that in every single moment, then you'll have it. And you don't need me or anybody else to give it to you. I am just simply, or any spiritual technique. Those things are there. I need them. I wouldn't be here if I didn't. I need them. So if you need them, that's okay. But truth is, if you're able to make that shift to stay in alignment with yourself, you don't need anything or anybody. The rest of it is just stuff we do to entertain ourselves and have fun. Okay, so I think I'm pretty much done unless there's a last minute question here that I haven't seen. Nope. I think all of them are there. All right. Thank you, my friends. Happy New Year. That's if you want to think about it. The New Year actually happened on the solstice. That's when we had the New Year. We're already in the New Year. But feel free to take January 1st as your New Year and meditate on this idea. Meditate on this idea of shifting into your new reality, and meditate on, if you're having trouble, meditate on what it is that you keep doing over and over again that doesn't get you anywhere. And just meditate on understanding that the pain of where you are is worse than the pain of taking action to get out of it. And when you are able to internalize that, then you'll be able to not only take action, but you'll know what actions to take. Okay? Okay, that's it. That's all I got for me. Thank you so much, my friends. I appreciate all of you. I can't even begin to tell you how much I appreciate you, and how much I appreciate you watching the channel, and how much I appreciate you being there with me and allowing me to share with you what's happening and what's been happening. And yeah, it's one of the great joys of my life. I'm really happy with where this whole thing is going, and this is just the beginning. So just stay buckled in, because it's going to get fun. All right, my friends, talk to you soon.